Welcome back, everyone. This is Christy with the Celebrating Singles podcast, and I am here with my friend George from Kansas City. Welcome, George.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're so excited to have you today. So just as a reminder, we have been on this journey for a few months now, I suppose. And really our heart behind this was a group of our friends realized that this topic of conversation kept coming up. And as we kind of were exchanging, okay, what's a podcast that you listen to, or what's like a YouTube channel or anything where you're like getting resources to help you in this part of your life, we realized we were coming up short. And so we feel like we're on a mission to change the way that people experience their singleness. We are not against marriage or partnership or anything like that. We just believe that humans have inherent value, regardless of their marital status. And so that's a little bit about why we're on this journey. And George, I am super excited to celebrate you today. George has an incredible story and honestly has been an encouragement to me, even from afar, to see what you've been doing and pioneering with a group in Kansas City. And so I guess first, give us a little bit, before we get into all of that goodness, which we will, tell us a little bit about you. Our audience is obviously meeting you for the first time, George. What are some fun things we should know about you, or just anything that you want to share?
Yeah, no pressure. I'm from Kansas City, and I actually just turned 41 years old this year. Just crazy.
Oh, 41.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm actually my mom's Puerto Rican, my dad's Mexican, Hispanic descent, and I'm a designer. So I do graphic design, and I love just making things look really good. That's what my passion is. And actually, lately, I've been doing a lot of interior design as well. And so branching out in that area. And I'm involved with my local community here that does talent stuff. So I've been in a couple like commercials as well in Kansas City. So I'm just kind of plugged in all different ways, just trying to just have fun and be creative,
Oh, I love it. Yes. Oh, to all our creatives out there. So fun. I love it. They can all resonate for sure. I'm excited. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that. That's kind of fun. I would say there's like a million questions I have for you, George, but I guess to start out, what I think is super interesting about you is you didn't just take your singleness and just like figure it out for yourself, but you are like thinking beyond yourself, thinking bigger than yourself, and have now catalyzed a community of people kind of going after, their single journey together. Can you talk a little bit more about that and tell us kind of like, okay, what's happening? I know you have a big event coming up this week with Valentine's Day. So Can you talk a little bit more towards that?
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago now, I just was feeling the need to just get a community of, singles together to connect. I've always heard over the years how people love the single community and how they want to put stuff together for them and connect people. And honestly, for years, I thought that was awesome. And I just kind of sat there and waited for it to happen. And eventually I got to my 30s and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of waiting, and I'm gonna make something happen for myself. And I actually started a community group for singles in their 30s, and specifically in their 30s. So I had people coming to my group, and we'd meet every week, and we just just get to know one another, hear each other's stories, and learn how to just learn from each other. And we would share information and just talk about questions of the week, and we would get to know one another. And it was so helpful because I realized what people were looking for in their 30s was very unique in the sense that we have friends who are in our 20s, we have friends who are in their 30s or older, and a lot of those friends, they're too young or they're older than us, or they're, our age demographic, but they're married and have kids. And we're like, man, all of us in the group, we went around the circle. We're we're just looking for community. We're looking for people like me, like ourselves, that are single, that are in their 30s, that need to have friendships and have community. And it was surprising how big of a need that was. And we had about 16 people in that group, and it was just a great season. We met for about 3 years, and a lot of really cool stuff started from that. That was just the beginning.
Wow. Okay, there's a lot there. Can you double click on the question of the week? What's that? Tell me more about that. What was that like?
Yeah, so I had a friend who was kind of helping me kind of co-lead this gathering, and she actually had the idea. She's like, let's get everyone to write a question down about relationships, about like, male or female questions, gender, stuff like that, dating, marriage. Like, just put them in a box, and every week when we meet, we'll pull a question out and we'll read it. Obviously, we would read the question first just to make sure it wasn't like super weird or anything. And then we would read the question, and then basically what would then happen is a dialogue. Like, the guys would answer from their perspective, and the girls would answer from their perspective. And it was like, honestly, like, it was like, oh, like the light went on. Like, some of the conversations we had were just so enlightening. Like, I think a lot of guys have like preconceived like ideas about women, and same thing vice versa. And I
Yeah.
think just talking about, yeah, right? It's like so true. Like, we think, oh yeah, girls are like this, and girls are like, men are like this. And it's like, no, actually, let's talk about that, and let's like get to know what we think about this topic. And it was really good conversation to have.
I love this. Well,
Yeah.
and this is really good. I would say even with like peer friendships of like the same gender. I know for
Mhm.
me, I've moved around a lot. And so maintaining certain friendships from, different locations even, right? Is
Yeah.
challenging even with
Yeah.
technology. And so I had a friend also actually have this idea of we're going to do question of the week. And so her and I don't live in the same city anymore, but we'll do like question of the week and we'll do like voice memos or different things. And it really just is a really great way. Honestly, for me, I'm a verbal processor. So I think a lot of times it like helps me process my own thoughts of what's happening that week, but also really helps create, I would say, more intimacy and more of a stronger connection in that friendship. But
Yeah.
I would say for, a co-ed type group, so valuable. And even like we've done a couple group podcasts with guys and gals, and they've been so fun and
Mhm.
so enlightening because I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how different our brains work.
Yeah.
And when you're I'm turning 37 this month. I'm like, wow, I actually never knew. I grew up with one brother, but like we haven't lived in the same house for, now almost 20 years. And so yeah, it's different when you start getting the different perspective.
Yeah, it's like that. What was that book that came back? That was back in the day. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Right.
It's like, it's just a testament of like, we actually think differently, and that's actually beautiful that we are different and we think differently. And but how do we get to understand one another is like really key. And I think also in that setting is like your guards down. Like, people are not
Mhm.
trying to impress each other. Like, we're just like we're just friends. We're just friends having a conversation. So it's very cool.
I think that's really important too when we think about, because oftentimes, most of the time, and we talk to a lot of clients about this, where the only time they engage with the opposite sex is in a dating experience.
Hmm.
And that can be not helpful in some cases, and you don't get a lot
Yeah.
of practice, and you're actually getting to know someone. And so I think just like a no pressure friendship community group, so valuable, and is obviously meeting like interpersonal needs and in a healthy way
Exactly.
versus, a lot of times really then because people aren't getting those needs met, they end up getting it in an unhealthy way, which leads to like literally life changing things and
Mhm.
experiences or decisions. So
Yeah.
I love just the dynamic of, we often talk about having a healthy baseline before entering into a dating relationship. And that's a huge part of why we started the online course, was to help
Mhm.
people get to a healthy baseline so that you're making decisions from the right perspective. Right. And so I think that idea of being in like a co-ed friendship dynamic, so valuable and so amazing. I
Mhm.
love that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, community is so necessary. Like, we really do need each other. And just, we actually met here in my living room, and so we bring food and snacks, and we just kind of hang out and talk. Sometimes we'd have a game night. Sometimes we would go out to like, actually my group started in the fall, I remember, and we actually used to go out and do fun fall activities. Like, you know, it was just really good to like build friendships and build community.
I love that. So good. So good.
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys are doing an event for Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah, we did our first event 3 years ago. Actually, that group of people and that small group, we did it together. And actually, like, let's do a big group. And actually, what we did was speed dating, which everybody kind of has like they feel a little odd about the whole speed dating thing. But it was a speed dating event, and then also it was just a mingling, just a time to make friends, a time to meet new people. So all these singles from all across Kansas City got together at this location, and there was a time just for hanging out and just getting to know people. And then we had a separate group of people who were like, hey, who wants to speed date? And honestly, it was shocking the amount of people that were like, I'm down, like I want to speed date. And that event, we were not prepared. The first one we did, it was lots of people. And this was our third one that we've done so far. So, and everyone we've done, it's been better every single time.
Mhm.
And we've become more organized. And honestly, it's our biggest event we do every year. I think last year we had about 100 people that showed up, which is like, honestly,
Good.
for us, that's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
Um, and I think most of those people actually speed dated. We actually did two separate groups. And then the people who weren't speed dating hung out in the other room, and they continued to hang out and have fun and just eat food. And, it's Valentine's Day. Like, it's such a, what a perfect day to like get together and just hang out and meet people. You never know
Mhm.
what's going to happen. And what's the coolest thing actually? Out of the three events we've done, the first two events, we've had people meet there at that event and get married.
All
Like,
right.
it's what keeps me going, honestly. It's like, wow, this is so much work, but like it was so fruitful. Like we actually created an event for people to come meet new people, and it actually resulted in two people getting married. So I
That,
feel like it was very. Actually, I'm sorry. This is our fourth event. Our third event, we have a couple who's been dating since the Valentine's event, and they haven't got married yet. But it's been a year since they've been dating, and this is our fourth event. So hey, here's hoping.
all right. All right. Well, and that's really good, George, because I do think I have loved getting to meet people that have, again, used this like part of their journey and actually catalyzed a community out of it in person. And definitely like one of our, I would say, like hopes and dreams for this project, that it would catalyze people in person in their cities to like start a group. And so it is sometimes like it can be just like simply like hosting a game night in your living room to start it. Like it can be really, really low barrier. It does not take like a bunch of lift. But then obviously to pull off a speed dating event, I love that. But like people are getting married out of it. Like how important and how cool
Yeah.
to see that kind of impact in people's lives.
Mhm.
So worth
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
I just really like that. That's good.
And I think one of the things that we realized too, we did a Christmas event as well. We have lots of activities we do throughout the year, but I also realized since the beginning, actually, these events aren't necessarily for people to get married. That's not really the goal. That's not why we're doing it, because there really are people who are content in their singleness, and it was almost like, oh, we're kind of like making this thing the highest
Mm,
level, when actually, like you talk about, like we're celebrating our singleness. Actually, some people may not get married, and that's not a bad thing. That's not necessarily, that's what they feel called to do, and that's okay. And so we have people coming and they're like, oh, I don't want to go. It's like, it's just people that want to, go on dates and get married. I'm like, no, but like, come make friends. Like, it's all about getting out of your comfort zone and building community and making friendships and meeting people you wouldn't normally meet, because we're kind of in our sphere all the time. We never get out of our comfort zone and go to another place. And it's hard to meet people in the right context. And this is actually a safe context to get together with people and get to know them. And so I see a lot of friendships starting, and it's not only romantic in that way. So I just wanted to say that.
yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Yeah, it is kind of a both and I think that's where people typically and I love it sounds like there's a really healthy dynamic with your group, because usually it is like it's like okay, everyone's getting together with the sole purpose of meeting, and it puts this pretty high pressure on even like something that should be pretty normal of like showing up to someone's house and playing game night. It's all of a sudden like is everyone evaluating I'm highly
Yeah,
competitive. Probably not the environment that I want to meet my future husband in, to be honest.
that's funny.
If I'm not my authentic self, then like, I mean, eventually you're gonna figure out I'm like very highly competitive on game night, and that's what you're signing up for. So, but I love that there is like a dynamic of like, hey, we're not just here for that. There is also like a really beautiful byproduct of like healthy friendships that we all need anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. That's so good. Okay, George, can we flip it a little bit? And I want to ask you some hard questions because
Oh
getting
no.
a guy's perspective on this is so important. And I'm so curious. So, not in every culture, especially I would say, a lot of my friends are in San Francisco. It's a little bit different, but I'm from the Midwest. And I would say from a more traditional standpoint, and I'm still in this category, by the way, of where kind of it's the guy's job to ask someone out,
Yeah.
right? Like that's kind of like, maybe a more traditional model.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what that's like from the guy's end, because I can only imagine right? Fear of rejection, the annoying part of getting rejected, like all of that. I know it's a little bit of a tough subject, but are you willing to go there with me and kind of talk to me about what that process has been like for you?
Yeah, totally. I have definitely thoughts on both sides for sure.
Okay, let's hear them. I'm ready. And you can ask questions to me too. Go for it.
Oh yeah. So just to reiterate, you were just saying on your end as a Midwestern mentality, you have the expectation for guys to ask the girl out specifically. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
know I'm very old school in that way. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So, but I also fully recognize that that is like, especially in today's culture, like even walking up to a stranger is just not normal anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so, I fully recognize that that's maybe not even like fair or all the
No.
things. But regardless, I would say I'm curious what that experience or journey has been like for you.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting, and I mean, I've actually been in a couple like coffee dates, which that's a whole other conversation. I think you could do a whole podcast on the coffee date thing because people think it's like this like marriage proposal and it's just a coffee date. Like a coffee date is a coffee date a date? Is it a real date or is it just a get to know somebody?
Big
That's
twist
I'd love to
it.
hear people talk about that.
Good.
Yeah,
Big, whole nother conversation.
because like I've been on a couple like coffee dates that actually girls have asked me out on throughout like last year a couple times, and I was just like, I'm all about like, hey, like why not? Like, I think it's so hard for somebody to get out of their comfort zone and like, hey, like, can I get to know you a little bit more? Can we have coffee and just talk? And it's like, yeah, sure, like, why not? It's like we're not getting married. You're not asking. It's like not a date in that way. Like, it's just we're just gonna get together and chat. That's the way I think about it. And so, but I really do. Obviously, I think I'm also from the Midwest. Born and raised in Chicago, live in Kansas City, so it's the Midwest for sure. And I am old fashioned in that way. I do think that a guy should ask a girl out. I think they should pursue them, and I definitely have my stories about that. And like we were talking about earlier, like I think I was like about the age of 25 when I actually started even to think about dating. And it was that same year I was 25. I have a twin brother and an older sister, and my twin brother and my older sister both got married the same year, and they got married like 2 months apart from each other. Yeah, it
Goodness.
was like
The
lots of
pressure.
yeah, lots of pressure, lots of weddings, and it was honestly a beautiful time, and I'm happy for them. But then I realized I'm the last one, and everyone's like, "So, when are you getting married?" And I'm like what? Like, I didn't realize I needed to. It's like that pressure that people put on people, like, "Oh, by this age you should be here. By this age you should have that." And I've never liked that. They've always like struck me the wrong way because it puts this like I call it a burden on me that, or on singles in general, that makes you feel like, oh, something's wrong with me. Like I'm not where I should be. And it
Mm.
kind of creates this pressure that's not good. It's not healthy, and it weighs on you. And I think it puts people in bad situations. They start, being, trying to like rush into marriage and they're not even ready for it. And so like for me, I think I did actually start thinking about it, which was healthy. And I started like, hey, I actually do need to start going out on dates, start trying to meet people, and there's just a couple people I actually have interest in. And what happened after that was like honestly a lot of rejection. Like I would ask people out and women out, and they would like just say, "Oh no, I'm not interested. No, no, thank you." And it was like, wow. I was like, okay, I thought this would be a lot easier than it was,
Dang.
and it wasn't that easy. And it was like, and I think early on I did feel that like that sting of rejection, like, oh, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not like good enough? Like, why does nobody want to go on a date with me? Like it would like kind of weigh on me, and it would honestly take a while, like a month to like a couple months to like a year to even want to ask someone out on a date again. And but
Dang.
yeah,
Wow.
'cause
Okay, that's
that's
interesting.
go ahead. Yeah,
No,
ask
thanks
me
for
about
being
it.
honest about that. I'm like, oh my gosh. So wait, so it would be like a whole nother year.
Honestly, like I do remember a couple times where like, well, I'm just gonna wait. I don't want to like put myself out there because it's like it really is. It's a risk. One of my favorite quotes that I say this a lot to people is I don't even know who said it, but it's like love without risk holds no reward. And I'm like, oh wow, I'm reminded that like love is a risk. Like it really is putting yourself out there. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to yield a reward at all. So
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
this is profound. Okay, this is really interesting. Can I chime in from the girl's perspective?
please.
So super fascinating. I feel like I will like debrief with friends and they'll talk about like a coworker or, someone that they met and they'll just be like, he is just not even there. Like he's just not even there. Like it's like he doesn't even see me. And I've often thought, well, I'm like, well, wait a minute. It might have nothing to do with the fact that he's not interested in you. It might have everything to do with the fact with like he could have just gotten out of another relationship. So even like not even like he just got out of another relationship, he just got like hardcore rejected. And now it's like, dang, it's hard to like get back up there, right? Which is totally fair, I think, for any of us, but like gives a whole different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it took me a couple of years to even realize. And I think for me, I had to work through a lot of my self worth and my value, because I
Mm.
think that I realized I was like finding my value in people, not just in like dating relationships or the pursuit of that. It was like, oh, I just feel like a lot of like I'm just doing this because I want someone to like me, or I'm just like going to become this and do this because that's what I have to do in order to get people to be interested in me. And it's like, no, my value is not tied into someone else. Like just because a woman rejects me doesn't mean that I'm a loser. It doesn't mean that I'm now I have to go look in the mirror and be like, oh, why am I so ugly? Because I've seen that. Like we actually have a singles connect Facebook group page here in Kansas City. We do our group stuff, and we've had some people comment on that, and I feel sorry for them because like a lot of them are like, oh, I'm the worst. Nobody wants to be with me, and everybody hates me. And I'm like, oh, I kind of feel it kind of hurts me to hear people say that about themselves, because I feel like we've all been there, and it's like and I remember talking to this person, like, no, like our value is not to be found. Like you are wanted, like you are loved exactly who you are. And there's somebody out there who actually you're going to connect with, and it's going to be this great connection, So don't like lose hope. And I think for me, I had to get to that point, like, oh, I need to realize that just because someone says no to me, it is not an attack on my character at all. And
Right.
yeah, and that was what happened. I asked somebody out. I remember later on, and it was like they're like, "No, thank you," and I was like, "Okay, cool." And I was like, "Wow, I handled that really well," and I don't feel bad about it at all. And that's when I realized I've grown a lot.
Wow. Okay, this is good. So you feel like, okay, let's talk about that. So you got to a point where it's like kind of neutral, like it doesn't
Mhm.
sting anymore, and you
Yeah,
don't really take it as rejection.
yeah, and honestly, it's like it's a case by case basis. I feel like, and it's not wrong to feel that. I think we're humans, and we're gonna feel that in a way. But I think it's good to step away and be like, when those thoughts and those feelings come to your brain and your heart, it's like, okay, I feel this way, but what's the reality? Like, and even just talking it out with a friend, like this is what happened. And sometimes you need community. You need someone to come around you and be like, hey, just remember, this is not about you at all. That person, like you said, Christy, like they might have had their reasons and maybe they're not ready. Maybe they've been, whatever. It's like, don't take it as an attack on your character. And,
So
but
good.
yeah, I would say it's gotten a lot, I'm more mature, I guess, in that way now that I'm 41, maybe. I don't know.
I know it took some years for sure. I know.
Yeah.
I definitely like, I think thinking about rejection and thinking about how to overcome it and realizing that it's just not about you, honestly,
Mhm.
I think is such a huge growth area for so many people. And frankly,
Yeah.
like one that's really, really important. Like there are so many different reasons why maybe someone might not be interested. And maybe none of them have to do with you and all of them have to do with that other person. Like I really random story, but I feel like I'm supposed to share this. I was at a wedding once and of course, before the wedding, my friend kind of like pings me and she's like, okay, there's one single guy coming and like four other single women. It's like a total of five of
Mhm.
us. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. I'm like, that's not why I'm coming, whatever. But then, of course, your brain goes these places. Well, anyway, long story short, the guy pays no attention to me all night. And I'm just you start getting into your head a little bit. You're like, okay, like I'm not pretty enough, my dance skills are not good enough, whatever, like
Mhm.
whatever. Well, then
Yeah.
literally he gets really drunk and at the after party ends up talking and is like, he totally shares this whole story, how he just got out of this breakup and
Mhm.
how he inherited land actually in the Midwest. And he's like, I'm never going to find a wife to move to like this place or whatever. And this light bulb goes off that like him not like engaging with me the whole night paid no attention to the fact that, like anything wrong with me. Had everything to do with the fact he was just getting over a breakup, and he was like really insecure about the fact that he was going to move to like small town Midwest, and he's like, who is going to want to move there with me? And it was like, oh my gosh, wait a minute, this had nothing to do with me. Why am I
Yeah.
taking on all of these negative thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And so I do really love, honestly, the growth that you can have through self-reflection and maybe, a little bit more time to think about these things. You really can get out of the fact of, wait a minute, like I have value. I really like who I am. I'm
Mhm.
really proud of, the life that I've built. And whoever I end up meeting who, is my partner for life is going to also appreciate those things. And I don't have to like worry about the ones that aren't a match.
Yeah. That's so great. Like it is nice. It's so beautiful to see that when there's that connection. And I've seen that in a lot of my friendships and their relationships, their marriages. Like, wow, they actually found this person that was like such a perfect match for them.
Mhm.
And that person is there. They're out there. It's just don't lose heart as you're on the journey. I've had friends who like I don't know. It's complicated because I feel like sometimes guys do get a bad rap for like asking people out. Like I had a friend who was like he would ask people out all the time, and people would be like, "Oh, I can't believe he's like just trying to date everybody." I'm like, "But he's trying to get married, and that's kind of what you have to do when you are trying to get married. You have to go on dates." And I actually look back and I'm like, "Oh, what he did was actually really good," you know?
Mm-hmm. I know there's so much. I mean, we could totally go there. Like so much unhealth in like dating app culture and even the people off the dating apps, that dating culture. I'm
Yeah,
like, we just hence this project. We are, I guess, of the opinion that we could all make this change in our culture, hopefully, and make it better for everyone else coming down the pike. But yeah, that's really good.
yeah,
Okay, can we double click on something you said earlier? Because I think this is really interesting. So, your twin brother and your sister get married in the same year. You're
mhm,
from the Midwest. So, I can only imagine the pressure that you were getting there. And I think you were saying, you were just alluding to some things that I think are going to be gold in regards to like not giving into that pressure, recognizing like at that point at 25, you hadn't really been thinking to that vein yet, but then all of this pressure comes in and starts to like maybe make you second guess yourself or different things like that. Can you talk towards that some more?
yeah, yeah. I think that I don't know. There are people who are really like dead set on like getting to that place. Like I'm gonna get married and I'm gonna be 24 years old and I'm gonna make it happen. And I was just never like that. And I was just like, I'm just content where I am. I'm learning a lot about myself. I'm experiencing like new things and traveling a little bit more and growing as a person. And I just for some reason wasn't really trying to like get in a relationship or get married. And it got to that point when I was 25 and I was like, well, I guess at some regard, maybe it was good. Maybe it was good that I started actually thinking about it more. And so I guess looking back, that wasn't like horrible, but I think I did have to work through that pressure. Like the people telling me, oh, because I work for a nonprofit, and even people are like, oh, you can't work for a nonprofit. Like, you're never going to get married. You're never going to have kids. How are you going to support somebody? It's like, it was like, oh gosh, like maybe they're right. Maybe I should be somewhere else. But like, no, I really wanted to be there. And I really did actually work with people who were in families. So I was like, I'm not going to give in to that lie that people are trying to paint on me that I need to change this to be this and
Wow.
oh you should have this and it's like I don't want those things like just because you want them doesn't mean I should want them also.
So good.
And I think obviously how did I get there? Like I don't know. Honestly, I think it was like that journey of loving myself and learning about me and how I'm created and I don't have to look like even my own twin brother. Like what a perfect example. Like, like we're actually both graphic designers, both of us. And it's like he has his own journey and it looks different than mine. Just because I'm a twin, just because he's a graphic designer like me doesn't mean we're gonna line up in every single area. Like he's a drummer, he does his own stuff. Like I play guitar. Like we're different. Like I get to be different. I don't have to like be like my twin brother, and I don't have to be like my older sister. And I think I don't have to give in to that pressure to like be something that I'm not. And something that I'm not ready for. Actually, I think is what it is because I don't think everyone's really ready yet for to take that extra step because it's really serious. Honestly, I view it as a really serious like lifetime commitment, and I really want to be in the right place and be healthy when I get to that point. And what better time to get there than your 20s, like in your 30s? Like, I love it. I don't despise my singleness. I love all the years where I've gotten to like grow and to become a person that I am today.
That is so beautiful, George. I love that so much. And I do think it's interesting because there seems to be all of this cultural pressure, I would say, not just in the States, but like, I talk to a lot of people who are coming from different parts of the world where it's still
Yeah.
like arranged marriages are still a thing and like, just totally different cultures. But what's so interesting to me, if we just look at, the country that I live in the United States, the divorce rates for people who get married in their 20s is like really discouraging, right? It's like over
Yeah,
half
man.
of marriages end in divorce. And then currently, actually through this project, we learned that 46% of adults in America right now today are single. And so there's like all of this cultural pressure, but it feels like it's like this totally faulty foundation. Like I'm like, this is actually not real. If you look at the
Mhm.
stats, it's like, wait a
Yeah.
minute. If there is like statistics show, and I'm not like trying to discourage anyone who got married in their 20s, like we're rooting for you.
Yeah.
But why are we pressuring all of these young people to get married so young when like actually maybe growing in health as like an emotionally healthy adult before you enter into another relationship might be pretty helpful to these divorce rates. And so I definitely think we have a lot to learn as a society.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we need to realize like we are going to constantly be growing and we're going to constantly be changing. And I think it's healthy. And I actually look for that. I look for somebody who actually embraces that concept. I feel like it's a red flag to be like, this is just who I am. I'm not changing for nobody. It's like, well,
Mhm.
that's scary because like, I know that I need to grow in certain areas. It doesn't mean I hate myself. It means I love myself, but I actually care that I'm going to grow. I want to keep growing. I want to keep changing and keep evolving. And because I do have real pain and real hurt. We all have that in our lives, but how do we actually, grow? How do we heal so that when we do get married, we're actually in a better place? People get married like when they're 20, and I'm like, I do kind of like, hey, everyone's story is different. So I'm like, no judgment, no judgment. But like, I'm also a little scared for you because I don't think you even know who you are at that age. And
Yeah, for sure. No, I know. And, I've had now an opportunity to just interview people, obviously, with a bunch of different stories. And I think where I've landed, like, some people say, well, I got to navigate a lot of that like pain and challenges of, adulthood in my 20s. And I had a partner to do that with, right? Like I had someone else and someone else's perspective.
that's what,
And so that can be like really valuable, right? And then you're
yeah,
growing. And a lot of them will attest to like my husband's a completely different person than what I married, but we actually grew together, which is
mm,
really beautiful when that does happen, right?
yeah,
But then I think obviously we're going to talk towards the vein of like, I'm so thankful that I got to do all of this and work all of this out before I got married, before I had children. I'm really grateful because it's going to make for a completely different marriage and a completely different
yeah,
family. Um, and so I think it really comes down to like we're not copy and pasted. I think we live in such a society of copy and paste, right? Where it's like, okay, find something that works and then like boom, boom, boom. What's the 5-step program, right? To
mm,
lose 20 pounds in the next 6 months or whatever. And we kind of get in that like highly fast food consumerism type. And it's like, wait a
yeah,
minute, this is the most dynamic probably decision of of our lives, like who you're going to spend the majority of your time with, right? Or who you're going to sign up to be, in a partnership with. And so, and actually, I think I've mentioned this before, but in one of the books I was reading, they studied over 1,000 first dates, and they studied 100 criteria of different things that would like cause a person to fall in love. And there was literally no common denominator to who fell in love. They could not predict of 100 different things. They could not predict who was going to fall in love. And I just think that's so fascinating because I'm like,
yeah,
wait, we've got all these apps, all these algorithms trying to tell us like, okay, we're going to be able to help you. And it's like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, I think there's some divine destiny
yeah.
that plays a role in this that we've got to like figure out that like it's not a cookie cutter answer for everyone.
Yeah. Well, it was like, it's just marketing. They're like trying to get people to just buy into it. But like I said, everyone's story is so different. I've heard stories, I'm like, ooh, oh, that worked. Wow, they've been married for 70 years and that actually worked for them. That's like not that what you tell someone that story, they're like, red flag, bail right now. But like, everyone's story is just so different.
That's really good. That's really true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are those stories. Like, I mean, I think my grandparents got married within like 3 months of like knowing one another. And there was like a huge age gap and like all sorts of stuff. And they made it work for like 60 some years. Five
Yeah.
kids later, uh, definitely far from perfect. I would say they even attest to, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of crazy, right? To think about those stories that do make it work and they do make it, which is pretty awesome.
The mystery.
It is a mystery. That's true. Yeah. Okay. I know we're coming up on time, but I want to just be curious. Like, is there anything else that you feel like maybe you would have told yourself in your 20s or anything else that you would want to share to a community of singles that are navigating this journey?
Okay. Let's see.
I know we've already
Yeah.
talked about so much.
Hmm. Yeah. I think like I got to hear like one of your other podcasts recently as well, and I really enjoyed it. And I think one thing that comes to mind, I think, is um yeah, just I think I said it already, just not despising the journey, like not wishing I was somewhere else. Because like I think when you are wishing you were here, wishing you had done this in the past, and it really just it's unnecessary. It's like the past really doesn't define us, but it's like they're just stepping stones to get to who we are going to be in the future, and we just have to be okay with that and know that like I'm better for the past. Like whatever happened is in the
Mhm.
past, and it's a constant journey of growth and no, don't lose heart. I would tell myself that, like, just keep pressing on. You don't know what the future holds. Like, my twin brother, like I said, he got married in his 20s. Like, honestly, once he got married, they actually had a honeymoon baby, basically, and their life began, and they got a dog. And then, like, he didn't travel as much as I got to travel. And my older sister, actually, she got married when she was I mean, how old was she? I think she was in her late 20s. She didn't even have her first kid till she was like in her late 30s. And
Mm,
I think it's just the stories are so different, but I love that I was able to do the things that I've done, and I would not have been able to do them, I don't think, as easily if I was married or if I had kids right away. And I love the adventures that I've got to go on, and I love who, like, all those things I look back on, they've made me who I am right now. And I think they prepared me just for adulthood and just for being a single and now in my 40s. And yeah, I think, and I'm still growing, and it's like I think it's that concept of like there's still growth to be had, and don't be
mm.
content with where you are. There's actually a lot more to come. And there's like the best is yet to come. I like to say that a lot to people. So like the best is yet to come. Like forget the other stuff. Like there's better things coming. Don't forget. So it's
So
reminds me.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, George, this is so beautiful. I just feel like your story, and even honestly, you just nailed it. Like, this is why we started this project, is to like celebrate the beautiful humans that just have a completely different journey than what our culture currently celebrates. And they are really beautiful stories and really beautiful journeys.
Yeah.
And, I love everything, you've been able to share today has been so helpful, so rich,
Thank you.
honestly, pure gold. Like, I'm so encouraged. And I know so many of our listeners are going to be encouraged. So thank you for being willing to share part of your journey with us and
My
letting
pleasure.
us celebrate just honestly the goodness of getting to grow as a single person and getting to go on that journey. Such a cool
Yeah.
story you've got.
Thank you. Happy
Yes.
to be here as an honor, honestly.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in again. Each Tuesday, we are dropping a new episode. And honestly, you guys, these conversations keep getting better and better. I'm so encouraged by people we're meeting all over, not just our country now. We've got people from other countries coming in and getting to hear from different cultures and different experiences, but all just really beautiful stories of amazing people who happen to be single. So you can learn more on our website, celebratingsingles.com. We have this podcast that has been honestly chock full of such goodness and such richness. But there's also an online course, and we are actually encouraging people for Valentine's Day Do not do it alone. Grab a workout partner, grab someone, a friend, to be able to go through this together. And just the stories that we are receiving, honestly, as you said, George, it's just so encouraging to see when people actually, get out of kind of like what culture says about singleness and get into the opportunities, the pros to this, the positive parts of this. It's been really, really encouraging to see what's been happening. So we know that story is out there and available to everyone who's listening. So head on over to celebratingsingles.com. You can find us also on Instagram at Celebrating Singles. And we'll catch you next Tuesday on this podcast. We're grateful for all of you and wishing you all the best.